Hi, welcome to our series Be and Ask. And I'm Alvin, the host for this series. And today we have Anna from the News Savvy. So Anna, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, Alvin.
It's our pleasure to have you. Let us know more about you. Let the audience have a better understanding. Introduce about yourself.
Okay, I'm Anna. I founded thenewsavvy.com. So the News Savvy is Asia's leading investments, career and financial platform for women. What we want to do is to empower 100 million women to achieve financial happiness. We deliver content, high quality content through media, through media, conferences and education platform. We are currently in Singapore and Hong Kong and planning to launch in Malaysia and Philippines.
Okay, thank you, Anna.
Yeah.
And talking about finance and things like that, right? And the News Savvy, what I heard is that you have a lot of dreams and you're expanding your region.
Yeah.
What is it that you really want to achieve at the end of the day?
I think what we want to do is to change mindset to help people to manage their money better. So for us, we are not content with just creating content for people, right? Because there are a lot of very good financial blogs or financial websites out there, but what we want is to actually move the needle. So from somebody that has not even thought of her finances, moving her along the spectrum of, hey, you know, I think I need to take care of my finances. And then secondly, if a lady, let's say a man or our reader, our audience have started investing, what are some of other options that they can actually consider?
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So speaking about one of the target audience that you have are mainly women, right?
Yeah.
And I guess there will happen to be some guys that are following your website as well. So would you be able to disclose what is the percentage?
I think about 70-30, 70 female, 30% male.
Okay.
And I think if you want me to explain why, I guess there are a few explanations. One, we have universal content. So let's say our property insurance content are very universal, right? Men and women look. Also, if you look at behavior, if you see the search results, of course, if a guy search for something and our articles come on top of it, let's say alimony in Singapore, then of course the guy, a guy will actually read the News Savvy. And lastly, I think a lot of men are actually quite interested to see what we write. For example, there was one article that we write about what happens when a woman earns more than her partner. I posted it on my Facebook and we received 30 over comments, and it's all from men. Yeah.
This is very interesting insight into this, and it's very commonly known that in finance or in investing is generally a very male-dominating kind of environment, right? And I also read studies that actually women are better investors historically, right?
Yeah.
And there are still so few women in the industry, and I guess that's what you're trying to change, right?
Yeah.
How do you think that you can help to get more women to take care of their finances, to really play a part in the role of money?
Okay, I think it's not about the number of women in the industry. I think it's the number of women actually actively taking steps to be financially savvy, right? Whatever, I think whichever life stages they are in. So there are consistent reports that says that women are better investors, and I think that's because women tend to buy and hold. Women tend to buy and hold, and whereas men trade more frequently, and women are actually less competitive. So we don't trade and compare, right? We just want to make sure that we take care of our loved ones, for example. Yeah. So, but the reason there are a lot of, I think so far women has always been underserved. There is no financial media that caters to them, and I think we grew up, you know, in an Asian society where we grew up in a mindset where men are supposed to be the breadwinner, men are supposed to take care of the finances, and I think the last reason is finance is a very technical topic. You know, it's not interesting. It's not the most fun topic, right? I mean, nobody goes home and say, hey, you know what? I want to study about bonds tonight. You know, So the idea of the News Savvy is to actually write articles and create content that speaks to women, that engages them, and to actually make them think differently about money.
Okay. Yeah. So probably there are some topics that is more related to women, right?
Yes.
Like where are the best place to buy cosmetics and things like that? Cost savings.
That will be our lifestyle types. But for example, there are certain things. Okay, so for the more serious topics, we have one that speaks about, you know, freezing your eggs. and the
Okay.
cost of it, right? I mean, a lot of women my age, 30 plus, we are not married, we don't have kids. So what is going to happen, because it's biological, right?
Okay.
There are certain things that talks about, let's say, you know, instead of buying a branded handbags, these are the stocks that you can buy. So it makes people think, hey, you know, instead of me buying a $6,000 Chanel bag, maybe if I buy a stock, these are the returns or losses that I can make.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's to shift the mindset, like what you
Yes.
mentioned previously,
Yeah.
right? Okay. And besides talking about women, I guess you're still in a very young age, right?
Yeah, I'm quite old.
And I guess there will be a lot of young people who can resonate with your content, and probably you met a lot of them. What are some of the important things they should do, especially they embark on a new career, receiving their first few paychecks? Are there any important things they must take care of?
I think one of the things that, I mean, there are a few things people can do, especially at the start of their career, right? And if you are starting early, that's great. One of the things that I always do is always buy insurance. I mean, I'm not paid by any insurance, but over the course of my working years, which is 10 over years, I have been hospitalized for many times, and the insurance always helps. And the younger you are, the cheaper it is. That's one. Second is to have a financial goal. I think people tend to have career goals. You know, like I want to be a vice president by 30, or they have life goals. I want to get married and have 3 kids before 35, right? But nobody sit down and say, hey, you know, I want to save, say, 200,000 by the time I'm 35. And after that, have a clear plan on how you want to reach there. You know, what are some of the steps? So when I was 21, what I wanted was to buy a house, a home for my family, because we didn't have a home, right? So I was very naive. I sat down in the class and I thought, okay, how expensive can HDB be? So I was very astounded that it costs 500,000, around 500,000, $500,000 for a 3-4 bedroom flat HDB, and I was really shocked, you know. And I asked myself, how can I, an ordinary girl, right? I'm ordinary, I have no special talents, I am not born rich. What can I do? So I actually created a spreadsheet for 9 years, and my aim was to buy that before I was 30. And I did scenario testing, stress testing, you know, what if I get 6%, or what if I get 10%? And you realize that you actually have very little time, and it's really very difficult to reach that, because you'll just be very surprised at the amount you need to save. Yeah.
Okay. So it is probably at that age, 21 years old, not many people are like you, right? Who is really sit down and do those planning financially, and see even stress tests and have senior planning. I guess that's the challenge in our society nowadays, and everybody are a lot more into instant gratification, right? They look at, hey, what can I receive the next day, and which makes investing like buy and hold, be investing in less risky assets rather than cryptocurrency, for example, right? A lot more difficult, right? Do you find this education or this increasing this financial literacy difficult in that sense by shifting that mindset?
I think so. So one of the reasons I started the New Savvy is I remember going to Topshop one day, and this was when I was in banking. And I realized that, like, you know, most of the dresses cost 150, 200, right? And even though I can afford it, I still thought that it was not value for money, you know, it was expensive, right? But I realized that a lot of the people buying it were actually 16-year-olds, 18-year-olds. And I wonder, you know, how do they get the money, right? And as I grow along in my career, I noticed that a lot of people, when you have your first paycheck, is very empowering, you know, because you finally have your own money, right? And a lot of people tend to overindulge, you know, buying nice things, you know, can be handbags, shoes, or watches for men. And they don't save. And 10 years later, you realize, hey, you know what, I don't have a lot of savings. Yeah. And I think that is one of the mentality of instant gratification, and which is why, going back to the first point, although it sounds very basic, having a financial goal is very important, because you have something to work for. When I first started working, because I was so obsessed about owning my own home, owning the HDB, I save almost every single cent I have towards it, you see, and that makes it easier when you are working towards something. And I think the other thing that I can share is to actually have somebody to work on it with you. May not be an advisor, maybe a friend, so that it's just like losing weight, right? If you have a target weight, you're more motivated to reach that.
Yeah. So, and that peer is to give you some encouragement or even pressure to help you reach the goal even faster.
and make yourself more accountable to it. I mean, I think research have shown that if you say out what's your goal, I think you hold yourself more accountable to it.
More committed.
Yes.
Next, let's talk about mistakes, right? Everybody makes financial mistakes, and I think we get to learn more about mistakes than successes, right? So, do you have any memorable mistake that you have made financially that you would like to share?
I have too many. Okay. I think one of the biggest mistakes that I had was to invest in something speculative. So I started investing when I was 21, right? I used to work in Citigroup and I run to the ATM to buy IPOs with my internship pay. So, and then I worked in the bank. I worked in banking, in finance for almost 10 years, and I grew very complacent. I was very busy in my work. I was sleeping like 4 or 5 hours. And a friend of mine, who's a lawyer, actually said, "Hey, you know what? There's this stock. They actually manufacture the fiberglass for iPhone." And he says, you know, they are going to announce that they will have a new contract with Apple. So I went to buy. The stock went down. I went to double down. Basically, I bought twice and I lost a lot of money. I lost 150,000 US dollars. Yeah, but it was a very painful lesson. I still can't get over it today because it was also a lot of money. But the most important thing that it taught to me is actually going back to basics, right? Buy only what you know. Buy something that you have researched, you know, you are comfortable with. And when I invested in those in the stock, it's none of those things.
So you probably met a lot of your audience, and probably some of them have also shared some mistakes with you, or even you have observed some of the things they're doing that you feel that is not right, right? There are some things that shouldn't be done that way. What are some of the common mistakes that you see and observe in other people?
I think one of it is not starting early. And I know it sounds, again, very basic, but a lot of people don't start early, and then they realize that later on it's not enough time to acquire or accumulate wealth. The second thing is also, I think it's paralysis by analysis. You know, some people, they want to analyze everything and then they don't take actions, and then, you know, and you miss the opportunity. Yes.
Okay. So these are the common mistakes, and you see them repeated over and over again.
I think so. I mean, these are the people that I met, right? And some of it is also, of course, buying things that you don't know, like cryptocurrencies, right? A lot of people don't understand what is blockchain technology, right? What is the technology behind it and what gives it its price, you know? So, but it's a fad, you know, it's going up, so people are buying and then they get caught in it. So I think the most important thing is, again, buying things that you're familiar with, you know? Even my own stock portfolio, I buy things. For now, after making all the mistakes, I buy something that I'm familiar with, I'm comfortable with. And finally, one of the things that I'm always focused on is how much money or how much percentage can I lose. And I live by that principle. Yeah.
So very wise words from Anna, having gone through those lessons, and very wonderful insights that we're getting from you. So ladies and gentlemen, Anna, the newsavvy.com, please visit and read some of the great stuff that's there. Thank you for watching.